What is up, Buff Nation? Welcome into DNVR Buffs Prime Time. We are presented by Illegal Pete's, everybody's go-to spot for burritos, buddies, and beers. Jake Schwanitz, Nikki Edwards joining the show today. Welcome back, Nikki.
Whoa, it's been a while.
It has.
We haven't seen each other in, was it June? It's been a month, but
since the spring game, yeah.
Man, so much continues to go on as we're not even on campus, you know? Everything's always changing, the roster's always evolving, but at least I got my vanilla latte today.
We're covered on all bases. I got my Red Bull. We're set. Lots of interesting stuff we're going to talk about today. And we start with the Coach Prime and Carl Reed article. It was also uploaded as a video. If you go to Well Off Media, you can watch the whole conversation. It's only like 6 minutes, but man, Coach Prime was spitting in rare form. Tons of things to talk about. Most notably, or I guess second most notably, the Travis Hunter thing was pretty shocking. Offered $1.5 million in the portal to leave Deion, Coach Prime Sanders, and go join someone else.
Oh, it kind of goes to show we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes, but yeah, $1.5 million. I mean, that's definitely a huge price, and it just shows the loyalty that Travis Hunter has with Coach Prime because, you know, under any circumstance, it's hard to turn down like that big of bag, and for him to stay and turn that down, it's just, you know, he's locked in with the Buffs, and it's just great to see that kind of loyalty and relationship between those two because he is such a valuable player. Like, you know, he's going to be eventually going to the NFL, and just having him on Coach Prime's roster and just having him as an asset moving forward is going to be, of course, as we know, so good for the Buffs, but yeah, $1.5 million. That's a hard decision to make.
For a 19-year-old, that's quite a lot. Two words you said there, relationships and loyalty, and that's basically what Coach Prime said. Question he was asked directly was, there was a lot of smoke surrounding Travis when he entered the portal. Would he follow you to Colorado or land somewhere else? He obviously enrolled at Colorado. What are your expectations for him this season? Coach Prime immediately says people offered Travis Hunter a bag, about $1.5 million, to try and lure him and buy him out of the transfer portal. But Travis is not that kind of guy that can be bought. He isn't built like that. Travis is a relational young man that is built on relationships and stability. And that's what he wanted and desired. That is why he decided to ride and stay with us. Cannot wait until they see what he is capable of doing these next couple of years because he will be a top 5 or top 3 pick after his junior year. The sky's the limit. He's going to play both ways, vital part of offense, defense, and he wants that.
Yeah, that's exactly how, you know, we see it, and that's, you know, the narrative I'll be getting. That's the truth behind that relationship, you know, and, you know, I think just what Pat Narduzzi said, and, you know, everyone likes to talk, but it's just, you know, it's not the best look when you're talking down on a program that you don't really know a lot about, kind of the kind of internal operations. You know, people can say what they want, but ultimately, you know, Coach Prime is doing what's best for his program, and I think Pat Narduzzi is ultimately doing the same as all head coaches do. But, you know, it's just, I think, like, degrading conversation and just, like, mention like that. I mean, I don't think there's any need for it other than just, like, hot gossip. But, you know, Coach Prime knows where he stands amongst the coaching crowd, and, you know, there are a lot of questions around the Buffs program and what's going to happen in the fall, but, you know, it's all talk and smoke until this point, until, you know, you get between those hash marks and really see what's up with the Buffs.
Exactly.
Imagine if they played Pitt. That'd be funny.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. A bowl game this year? It'd be electric.
Oh, my God. That'd be so
Could you imagine those media sessions leading up to that game?
Oh, man. It would be very fun.
So a couple weeks ago, Pat Narduzzi spoke to Brandon Marcello of 247 Sports. Basically said what Coach Prime was doing with his roster overhaul was bad for college football. It's not the way it's meant to be. Tons of stuff like that. So Carl Reed brought that up. And Coach Prime's exact quote was, what was his situation when he came to Pitt? He had a different situation than me. He is not mad at me. He is mad at the situation in football now that allowed his best player to leave a year ago. He's not mad at me. He's using me to shoot bullets at another coach who he has an issue with. I don't know who he is. If he walked in here right now, I wouldn't know him. First off.
Roasted.
Yes. Oh, Pat Narduzzi. I mean, he's won a conference title, but Coach Prime's got him there. If he walks into a room, I think maybe less than one person would recognize him.
Yeah, you imagine like the NFL meetings and like all the head coaches hanging out. Like, where would Pat Narduzzi be? Like, maybe probably just like hanging out in the corner, just like having a beer, conversation. Like, he's not like the most prominent figure in college football. You know, is comparable to any other college head football coach. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know why. You know, you go all the way from the East Coast and you're just like, oh, this guy from Pitt making just comments about Coach Prime. This whole situation is just kind of like, just funny.
It is funny. But honestly, I think Coach Prime's right. Like, Coach Prime didn't do anything for Pat Narduzzi to be mad at. He didn't go and steal Jordan Addison. That was Lincoln Riley. And just obviously, he's been the talk of the offseason, Coach Prime in Colorado, because of what he's done to the roster. But yeah, it's just funny to see this, and it's funny Coach Prime's response. But he's right. It's not what Coach Prime is doing. It's what the system is at this point. Mm-hmm. That is why Pat Narduzzi is so upset. Yeah, I mean,
there's always like questions, I think, from an outsider looking in on like what truly happened with like the roster overhaul. And, you know, it is a, you know, somewhat risky approach, but at the end of the day, you know, 1 in 11 talent can't support what Deion Sanders was going to do. Like, it was really dramatic, like us covering it. I mean, we know like the full extent of what went down, all the people that left, and, you know, X, Y, and Z with the roster overhaul. But I think from an outsider looking in, it's just like, oh my goodness, like that's so dramatic. Like, why, how could he, you know, do such a thing? But everything that we've seen Coach Prime do is just so unconventional and like, you know, has its own like shocking flavor to it. But, you know, that's our kind of normal state that we've been in. But that's what makes it exciting and fun for us.
For sure. A couple great comments going on. MLN, Narduzzi got to float on a cupcake inflatable in the pool. Coach Prime had to mop up after a tsunami. And that's true. And that leads me, if you scroll up a little bit, Alyssa, Nicholas had a comment. Narduzzi inherited a team that was like around 500, went to bowl games. Mm-hmm. Coach Prime's inheriting a team that hasn't been to a bowl game in, was it 8 years, 7 years almost now? Like completely different situations.
Yeah, totally. I agree. Totally agree with that. You know, you can only judge, like I said, just from afar. Like Coach Prime needs to do what he needs to do to get to the program where he needs to get it. And, you know, and I like, as I've talked to people, everyone's like, oh my goodness, the roster overhaul. But, you know, it is a risky move from a college football standpoint, but ultimately everything happened as it should, I think.
It's going to be the talk of the season for sure. A couple other things. Carl Reed asked him about managing Travis's two-way ability. Coach Prime said, we don't have to manage that. That's his game. It's nothing that we manage. Travis is bored when he's not on the field. He's not intertwined with things when he's not on the field. Travis likes to be in the action. That's who he is. We've got ripped when we posted our projected starters last week. I did a depth chart this week, and I put Travis as the starter at wide receiver and cornerback. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I see that too. I mean, there's so much depth in that room. There's so much versatility. But when I think of those three guys on the line of scrimmage, I think Travis Hunter, Jimmy Horn Jr., and Xavier Weaver. Mm-hmm. And to pull up the roster, but I mean, there's so many other guys behind them, and right. I think the way that Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter have this chemistry, it's like, why wouldn't you put that on the field?
Right.
It's such a great product. Like, we've seen it firsthand. Like, they really work so well together. I think we got teased that too in the spring game when they had that first drive, and Travis had those like 3 catches and ended with a touchdown. I'm like, you know, when you see things like that, it puts you under the impression that, you know, he's going to start. And, you know, they, like I said, they just put on a really good product, just the way that they operate together.
Yep.
But I mean, I don't think you should be getting ripped too hard, but I think there are some other options.
But I should be getting ripped to some degree is what you're saying.
We'll see. I mean, we're still trying to get a grasp on what that's going to look like, how much he's going to like play. Right. I think it's going to ultimately come down to a stamina thing. I'm really excited now that we've seen just wide receiver, like, what Travis Hunter really looks like at cornerback, because it's quite exciting. I'm so excited for the secondary. That's like something I've just always been talking about. Like, this secondary is going to be nuts. Yeah. You know, like when you bring in so many SEC guys, like I was talking about this yesterday on a podcast I was doing, you know, you really see the dramatic difference of talent and versatility from the SEC to the Pac-12. Like, they really like shine. I mean, we see it with Jordan Dominic. Like, that guy can produce. And, you know, you have Hawkins Robinson, Omarion Cooper, Travis Jay. Like, they all have these really, you know, unique resumes, and they didn't get enough playing time and served more of a reserve role because those schools are so deep and so talented. And, you know, when you put players like that in the Pac-12, it's like you're going to see something pretty crazy.
Yep. The player I keep bringing up is Bo Nix, what he did at Auburn and then what he did at Oregon last year. It's just there's a big jump for those guys. One more thing, and then we'll move on. Coach Prime was asked about the roster change by Carl Reed. Carl Reed didn't even get to finish his question. He said, a lot of roster changes have been made, and Coach Prime interrupted. Necessary changes. Say necessary. Coach Carl Reed said that. He said, a lot of necessary changes have been made. How do you like your team going into the fall as opposed to what you had in the spring? Coach said, apples and oranges. You can't even compare the two. Talking about a situation in which we inherited a team that was 1-11, and everyone knows that there were going to be some changes. I don't understand how you would think that the coaching staff is the only thing that deserved to change. Now, when you rid yourself of the entire coaching staff, you think you are going to keep all the kids? That doesn't make sense to me. And that just doesn't make sense whatsoever when the previous staff was responsible for securing those kids. That's not the way this game is played with us. He talked a lot about just him and his coaching staff, how they're old school, how they approach the game. I mean, we heard tough, smart, fast, disciplined with character in this. All the hits. Yeah,
I mean, you know, I think Coach Prime is pretty, you know, he's pretty good at, you know, defending himself in this scenario. And it's just like I said, this is just kind of like a funny situation that we're all in. But, you know, like you said, those changes, everything that happened in this program, like, really needed to happen. Like, maybe there were a few guys that could have stayed on the roster, like, in my opinion. But regardless of what happened, you know, he's ultimately like the visionary and, you know, creator of this new era that the Buffs are going to enter. And, you know, he's going to just operate it on his own terms, regardless of what people say. And I've just noticed in my other job, too, I work for Yahoo Sports, and, you know, it's a more national big brand. And anything that we produce about Deion Sanders usually does numbers, and there's always going to be like traction and talk and discussion about and questions about what Deion Sanders is doing. But ultimately, like, you know, all of these questions and excuse me, all this gossip we're hearing, like, we're not going to get any definitive answers until the fall. But yeah, it's like funny. You're like, all right, Pat Narduzzi, you'll see what's going to happen at Folsom, because it's gonna be a much different team, and, you know, all those questions that he had and that we have will ultimately be answered.
Can't wait. Some other news from Well Off yesterday. And this, I guess, I mean, you guys were right. Sy'veon Wilkerson.
Snaps.
With the team. Last year at Jackson State, 227 attempts, 1,152 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns. Also added 21 receptions, 160 rushing yards, and 1 touchdown. He hasn't said anything, obviously. Yeah. And we've learned this from Well Off exclusively. Yeah. Reach the People, I guess, was the one who had the first little hint of it all. But now we're just showing him in the videos and talking to him and stuff. So I don't know. If I had to assume, I would assume he's walking on if he hasn't said anything and he's just kind of there. But who knows? This just could be a silent committal too. Yeah,
I mean, I think they have that flexibility, and, you know, we never forget about Charlie Offerdahl. You know, you never forget the walk-ons. But this running back room is just shaping up to be so compelling. Ultimate Casco. I talked about this with Brian the other day. I personally think that he's going to make the biggest impact in the fall. Just the way that he's really hungry to get back there. He was injured all last year, and he's really ready to show people, like, what he has. Like, he has such an incredible resume, like all ACC Rookie of the Year, 961 yards and 16 touchdowns. I've said that so much recently, but he's such a exciting player that I'm looking forward to. Same with Xavier Weaver too, but just looking at the running backs, you know, Dylan Edwards, super fast, able to break some tackles that I at least saw in the spring game, and Anthony Hankerson, really good goal line guy, can just kind of get it in there. And then Cavassier.
Cavassier Smoke.
Cavassier Smoke. Honestly, that's just like such a cool jersey. Like,
It is. That's a great Colorado jersey.
I know, it's such an applicable, awesome jersey, but he's a good blocker. I think he's able to play fullback a bit, and just I think the veteran experience, you can't get enough of that. And they're just gonna have multiple options. Like, there's just so many weapons on this offense, and I think we're gonna see a lot of. I think it's gonna be a mostly passing offense, but I think we'll get the running backs kind of integrated into the receiving a bit too, but nothing like having a good reliable back just to get those extra gains.
This running back room is turning into one of the strengths of the roster for sure. I mean, the production, this is now your second 1,000-yard rusher, and when you include Alton McCaskill. Cavassier Smoke only has 307 carries in his career, so he's got fresh legs. He's still averaged over 5 yards per touch in that time. You mentioned Hankerson. I think he's got a huge role coming up this year as well.
Yeah.
So it's an absolutely loaded backfield. Almost getting to the point where it's getting too crowded. Like, how do you give all these guys that many carries, because I mean, how I see the game is for a running back, you want them to establish a rhythm a bit. We saw this last year. Of course, different talent levels, but when Jaley Stacks would come into the game, he'd get one carry sporadically, and it'd be a 2-yard gain, and that's all you'd see of him. He never really had a chance to establish a rhythm. So we'll see how that works. They're going to run 90, 95, try to run 100 plays this year. So
yeah, we'll see how kind of the stability shapes up within all the rooms, and of course, as you said, you had your projected depth chart, but. I think that's ultimately the biggest thing that CU was missing last year was just stability and consistency. So, I think this roster can hopefully unlock that this fall.
Hopefully. This episode of the DNVR Buffs Podcast is brought to you by Illegal Pete's. Illegal Pete's is your go-to spot this summer. They've got extended happy hours at all 12 of their locations, 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. every single day. You stop in and get a house margarita or draft beer for free with the purchase of an adult entree. If you have gone to a game, just walk in, show your ticket stub, and they will hook you up. I love Illegal Pete's. What's your Illegal Pete's order?
I usually get steak, potatoes, lettuce, pico. Did I already say queso?
No.
Beans, white rice, and a soda. Or if it's a weekend, a margarita.
Ooh, spicy. Also, shout out to the American Raptors at Infinity Park. If you didn't get the ticket you wanted as an elite athlete, check out the opportunities at Infinity Park. Rugby just may be your next ride. The American Raptors have players from all kinds of different backgrounds: football, basketball, wrestling, soccer, track. They've got a former football player on the roster, Tanela Tupoa, from the University of Washington. You can watch the American Raptors games on ESPN+. You can also grab a ticket if you go to AmericanRaptors.com. They will hook you up there. Also follow our DNVR Rugby podcast and Colton Strickler. Stay up to date with everything rugby. Do you have any strong rugby opinions? Have you ever watched it, actually?
No.
No?
I've never, I've seen clips, but if you asked me what was happening, right. I couldn't tell you.
It's a great game.
It's pretty intense. It's full on, no pads, nothing. You're just
it's an all-out war.
Yeah.
All right. Been a while since we talked. What you been up to? I saw you talked to Chance Main. You had an interview yesterday. What else have you been up to?
Yeah, I've been trying to work as much as I can. I do work for Yahoo Sports now, and that's been taking up some of my time, but it's also been such a great journey for me in doing that. I work on their social media team, super fun. I know a lot about professional basketball now and the NHL.
Yeah.
And of course, football. But when it comes to the Buffs, really good to talk to Chance Main because I only talked to him once last season, and it was in the hallway. And of course, when we all did those interviews, it's what do you think? How is this team going to be turned around? What are you guys going to do?
Is this week going to be different?
Yeah, I'm how are you guys feeling going into Saturday? And it's just those, it was just an interview. It was kind of quick touch, and he's just we're just going to try to do the best that we can. And it's so, I think with the remaining Buffs that are on this roster, it's so good for them to get a second chance and uphold, the reputation that CU has. Like Chance Main talked about that. It's just like how much the Buffs would get, can I say shit? Well, I just said it.
Yeah.
How much the Buffs would get shit on last year. And, we saw that narrative firsthand, and now it's so good to see him get a second opportunity and really prove himself. I mean, it is such a deep and I think versatile defensive ends group that we're looking at this year, which is really cool. And, just seeing him kind of prevail under new circumstances. And, it was just, he told me just last year that a big reason why it was just, so discombobulated and they were losing is because a lot of people weren't on the same page. Like he would go to one coach and they'd be like, okay, you're going to do it this way. And then he'd go to another coach and he'd be like, no, you got to do it this way. And they'd be learning like these new plays like every single week. And, having that quick turnaround was just really difficult. And there's so many disconnections on different levels. And of course, like Carl Durrell brought in like a whole new staff, and it was it was disjointed in a lot of areas. And I think just hearing that perspective from me, and just it helped me get kind of insight of what was really going on behind the scenes, because it was also like really touch and go last year. But it was really difficult. It was really difficult. Like we're all those guys working day in and day out and just not seeing the results. And once again, like they're just getting shit on like all the time, which, they really bad offense, really bad defense. But, from an emotional standpoint, it's like, damn, like, I have respect for you guys because you guys really went through like hell and back.
Yep.
And now Chance Main is in this new situation where, this is a completely new team. Like they're actually going to win. They're actually going to score. Like he won't be, the defense will be definitely getting less reps.
That's true.
than
Hopefully.
they did last season. And I'm excited to see how he grows. And I think it's just, I kept saying it, but like, it's so good to see him get another opportunity, because when we saw all of that, like firsthand, it's just like, I just feel for the guys. It's just like, damn, like this sucks. Like this just sucks for everyone involved. And, we just talked about, I was like, can you describe like how you get around like a 6'10", 6'8" offensive lineman? He's like, sure as hell, it's really difficult. And he's like, are you talking about Tank? I was like, yeah, I'm talking about Tank. And he's like, this year I'm gonna get Tank. I'm gonna beat him every time. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna make a quote of that. But really good to see him and just kind of talk to him and touch base. And then I did an interview yesterday with Nebraska Rivals writer. His name is Zach Carpenter. Works for the Nebraska Insider, and I learned a lot about Nebraska and where they're at, and there's so many similarities between CU and Nebraska. Like within this year period, head coach got hired, all the players, I think only one player, I forgot his name, left within that 30-day period after a head coach got fired, but everyone basically stayed. Try to work their ass off, made the most of, an unfortunate circumstance. And the biggest thing, we just kind of talked about the matchup, and just, I think the biggest thing is just similarly to CU was there was just no alignment within that facility. No one was on the same page, and, they'd be so close and they would just have, this losing mentality. Like, they'd be like a touchdown or two behind, and they're like, okay, like, how are we going to screw this one up? Instead of like, okay, let's try to figure this out and let's try to win. And, it was a tough system. It was, like I said, it was so similar to CU. Players were just not fully buying in, having this mentality that they just weren't going to produce and they weren't going to win at the end of the day. And now Nebraska makes this kind of grand head coaching hire. I think, I think the second...
Not as grand as ours.
Yeah, I know. The second most prominent head coaching hire in college football, in my opinion. And one of their biggest struggles last season was their offensive line and their strength program. Their guys weren't big enough. They weren't strong enough. They weren't physical enough. And when Matt Rule came in, that was something big that he addressed. And like their strength program looks completely different now. And you throw around like culture and stuff. And, I think what they have now with Matt Rule is those intangibles that they didn't have last year, just like that more positive outlook, I think more organization, more structure. And they have a new quarterback. His name is Jeff Sims, came from Georgia Tech.
Yep.
Casey Thompson, their old quarterback, went to FAU. And
Yep.
they only lost, like, after Matt Rule was hired, they only lost, a handful of guys. And Matt Rule kind of kept the majority of that roster. And I asked Zach, I was like, when you look at a team and, they're a sub 500 team, they're losing, what do you think of the talent rolling over into next year? Do you think that Matt Rule would want to have like a Sanders approach where he kind of replenishes it on multiple fronts? Or, do you think that talent can actually, come into this year and produce? Was it like a leadership thing? And yeah, he ultimately said it was a leadership thing. Like they have a lot of 4-5-star guys. Like they have Eric Gilbert from LSU. Like,
Yep.
really talented tight ends. He told me that they're going to be really focused on the ground game this year, but they're also, of course, still going to utilize Jeff Sims and his passing ability. But yeah, I'm going to be posting that podcast later today, and I'd recommend listening to it. I know we all really hate Nebraska, but it's really fascinating how similar these programs are. Like when he was describing just like this past year, I was like, wow, I literally lived that.
Yeah.
Like I reported on that. Like it was just such a similar experience. And I don't know, Nebraska is just, it's an interesting program that I think doesn't get talked about enough because Matt Rule has such a, extensive and deep resume. And of course, that's how he got the job with the Carolina Panthers, was from his college head coaching experience. So yeah, Matt Rule is definitely building something interesting, and they have the talent to produce, but the biggest thing that they were missing was one, literally their offensive line not being strong enough, and two, just a lack of culture. So I'll be posting that later today. Just keep an eye on my Twitter. But yeah, if you want to learn about Nebraska and what they've been up to, it'll be on my YouTube later.
Some intel on the enemy never hurt.
Right? I mean, it's good. I'm like, it's good to understand, like, not going into that game like blind. Like their defense, we didn't talk about too much of their defense, but they have a really productive defensive end. I forgot his name, but yeah, Nebraska's a really interesting program, and he did have Nebraska winning that game. So we'll see.
Not surprising.
I have CU winning that game.
Of course you do.
I know. I kind of like.
You're smart. You know what's going to happen. Real quick, going back to Chance Main, where do you think he fits in this edge rotation? I did my depth chart. I only went 3 deep, and it's just hard to project a lot of positions because we're expecting a lot of rotation, edge being one of them. How do you think he fits in, though?
I think his experience, I think his size certainly helps, like the growth that he's had within the last year. I asked him, I was like, do you feel like you've mastered the defensive end position? He was like, hell no. I don't think anyone has necessarily mastered the defensive end position, but after certain years in college football, you have a really good grasp of, what your talents are, where you struggle with, but he's confident in his ability, but he still has a lot to learn. He said he was reviewing film with Sal Sinceri, and Sinceri was like, don't do that. Like, he was kind of just ripping him.
Well, after what we saw last year,
yeah,
I think Coach Sal would rip the coaches if he had the chance.
I think we saw last year, Chance Payne wasn't necessarily a starter. I think he started in UCLA was his first start, and we saw flashes of him. I definitely see him kind of taking that second seat to Jordan Dominic. I'm really interested to see what Sy'veon Smalls contributes. He was such a, I think, prominent recruiting pickup and really talented at Washington, another guy that, had a more or less reserve role and just needed a platform. So ultimately it's the next man up, but I want to say I see Maine kind of in that secondary position because Jordan Dominic is going to be, the number one guy. And
for sure.
Also Derek McClendon too, just another SEC. Dog. I guess it's not SEC, it's FSU, but.
ACC.
Yeah. But I'd see him taking the second seed, and ultimately it's the next man up. And I think he's definitely going to have to work for it because this edge group is really, really
hell yeah. Plug your YouTube real quick. What's your YouTube channel?
Nikki Edwards. See, I've been kind of getting it started, so I don't know my username quite yet. There's a bunch of numbers at the end, but if you just look up Nikki Edwards, I should pop up. And my picture is my same profile picture of me holding the microphone. And it's funny because that picture that I took, That's my profile picture. That's when Carl Dorrell got fired.
That press conference.
And I've asked a like silly question. I was like, why would you wait? I asked Rick George, I'm like, why would you wait until the Buffs were 5-0 to fire them? And everyone was like, no, Nikki, 0-5. And I was like, oh
yeah.
Remember that? I was like,
I do remember that.
I was so nervous.
It's all right.
That was a funny day.
We've come a long way since then. That's
such
for sure.
a long way.
All right, a few things to catch up on, and then we'll get to your questions. Lots of guys arriving for OVs. Brandon Davis Swain announced his arrival. The Michigan defensive lineman listed at 6'4", 240. 201st player overall, according to the 247 Sports Composite. I think he put out a top 5 or so not too long ago. CU was in there, but he's here on his OV. Charles Lester III has arrived. He arrives with a friend and 2024 4-star 247 Sports Composite wide receiver Zycarl Lewis. He's out of Tampa, Florida at a Carrollwood Day High School. 342nd overall player, 51st wide receiver. We already know Charles Lester III, 5-star, one of the top recruits in this upcoming class. So he brings a friend. You have the big guns in our guy Talon Chandler.
Yeah.
They're trying, man.
Yeah, I think the spring game too was like one of those like recruiting like halls. It's like, holy shit, like there is so much talent, and I think we've just seen that continuation of that. Charles Lester is a really, I think, compelling piece. I think with like those secondary guys, like I always have like kind of the inkling that they will commit just because of Coach Prime's history and whatnot. I'm like, why wouldn't you want to be coached by one of the best cornerbacks in NFL history?
You would think, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would think.
All right, we have one more, or actually a couple of more things. We'll go quickly here, and then we'll hit your questions. Jonah Williams, 2025 4-star safety. This is a top 40 player in this upcoming class from Galveston, Texas at Ball High School. 6'3", 203. He put out a top 12 yesterday. TCU, Texas, Ohio State, Tennessee, OU, A&M, Ole Miss, LSU, Oregon, ASU, USC, and CU. Obviously, a lot of time before he has to make a decision, but we're in good standing there. Stacey Gage. Teasing his commitment, which is going to be tomorrow, with the Coach Prime gif, the classic Twitter gif of you know what time it is.
Yeah, I think I feel like he kind of let the cat out of the bag with that one, because I feel like out of respect for another program, like if you were going to commit to one of the other schools, you wouldn't post a gif of Deion Sanders. Like that's so obvious. Like, oh, like, you know what time it is, and then the next day you commit to Tennessee. It's like, what? I'm like,
yeah.
I think just out of respect for another program, I feel like you wouldn't do that. So it's just,
we'll see.
It seems just from my expert opinion. I don't know what you're thinking. I think that he's gonna commit to CU.
I think we're looking good. It's just you never know with these kids. I mean,
you never know with these kids.
You could. I think a lot of kids have done this, tried to use Colorado to their advantage, to bump up their recruitment. I think we saw that with Shane Hooks a little bit.
I think also, too, is the running back room is a bit smaller.
Right.
And
he's a big back. Yeah.
I think there's availability for him to just immediately, like, hop into that system. Yes, there's 24, there's more time, but, yeah, it's a smaller room, and there's a lot of opportunity for him on this team. So, feels good. Feels good.
Brady says, think he's UCF bound. I think he just took an OV to UCF also. Last little thing to touch on, Clint Brewster, Coach Brew's son, works for 247 Sports, posted a tweet today of Maine tight end transfer Sean Bowman. Said he's a hot commodity right now, 6'5.5", 260 pounds, a true three down tight end with catch and run ability. He's adding some big offers, so stay tuned. We'll see there what happens.
Yep.
Real quick, also, we announced our TCU plans yesterday. You guys could come with us, basically, from Denver to Fort Worth. We've got tons of different packages depending on how many people you want to travel with, what exactly you want to do. If you want to come hang out for the tailgate, or if you just want... or if you want to do the whole package. We put out a tweet on the Buffs account, DNVR_Buffs. There's a link there to go on the site, and you can sign up and check it all out. We'll be plugging this throughout the summer, obviously.
Can I come?
Of course you can come.
I think I'm actually going to go to that game.
Let's go. That'd be tight.
Yeah. Let me know what flight you get.
I need to figure that out, too. I truthfully don't know. All right. Let's quickly do this and we can get to questions. We've got about 10 minutes. Shout out to Shady Rays, the independent sunglasses company who offers a world-class product. Durable frames, extremely clear optics for all your outdoor adventures. Shady Rays also has a lost and broken replacement program. Even on day one, they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. If you lose or break your pair of Shady Rays, you can shop their entire collection at the Park Meadows Mall. Or go to shadyrays.com, use the code DNVR. You'll get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. And then Backus and Shanker. If you get hurt, Backus and Shanker is here for you. They've been helping Colorado families win for more than 25 years. No fees to speak with them about your case. No fees while they work on your case. And no fees unless they win your case. They've won over $1 billion for their clients. They help with all kinds of injury cases where you weren't at fault. Car accident, motorcycle, rideshare, pedestrian, trucks. They can even help if you're injured at work. Smash that Shador line. 222-2222 to find out if you have a case for free. Backus and Shanker wins. All right, we got about 10 minutes, probably a little bit less than that. Okay. Bird's asking, what players have yet to arrive to campus? Honestly, I don't really know.
Yeah.
It's so hard to say at this point. But
I think we're getting glimpses in the well-off video, but we know Kermani's not there yet. But he's going to be there literally
this weekend.
Yeah, this weekend. And I think everyone's starting to roll in. I'm pretty sure, I don't know, I think everyone's mostly there. But as you know, like as you just said, like I don't fully know.
Right. It's, I don't know. I mean, it's still kind of early and guys are still trickling in. So if you haven't seen anyone in well-off or something, I wouldn't freak out. Remember, most programs don't even have a well-off. They don't know when anyone arrives ever. So I wouldn't freak out too much. D. Lee, hey, Jake and Nikki, what do you think of these conditioning drills from the well-off video yesterday? The shape and talent depth of this team is going to take a lot of teams into deep waters. Did you see this video yesterday?
Yeah, they were working.
Holy cow.
Yeah, that was, I would have fainted.
Yeah. I mean, I think you saw some of the new guys, Sy'veon being one of them, kind of just being like, whew, like, we got a long way to go. We got to get in shape. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a lot of conditioning that needs to happen. I saw that clip of Javon Antonio and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I was like, is that a tight end? But I was going to talk about this. He was a tight end coming out of high school. So maybe, I don't know if they would like ever consider him. I mean, he has played majority receiver, but I think with, maybe some freshening, some Tim Brewster, push.
Interesting.
He could maybe come in as a tight end because he's well sized. He's 6'4", 220. I'm pretty sure. But
he's going to get bigger with this strength program.
I think that could be something interesting to watch. Like if this tight end room doesn't come together, he could definitely be a piece to play that position.
Sean says I got PTSD from watching that video. Yeah, me too. It flashes back to some of the worst days of my life of summer conditioning camp. I did in high school and before.
Volleyball. I used to play condition a lot in volleyball. The ropes. You ever done the ropes before? Oh my god!
Just any type of circuit drills like that where they were doing like it looked like the pacer drill. Honestly, like do you remember that from high school?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that looked kind of like something they were doing, and they were struggling. Nessamore, where's Jalen Ellis and Brendan Gaunt? That's what I want to know. Again, I don't know, guys. They're coming, I promise. They will be coming. Alfredi, Jake, what do you do with Dylan Edwards if McCaskill and Smoke are 1 and 2 in order? So I kind of wrote about this in the depth chart piece. And interestingly enough, Dylan Edwards is the only guy on offense that I have at multiple positions. Listed him at running back and deeper down on the wide receiver depth chart too. His speed is obviously like what makes his game.
Yeah. He's kind of interchangeable like Jimmy Horn is.
Right. Like, and that's where I put him. So I put this like the slot receiver, I guess, basically as the speed receiver. So I listed Jimmy Horn, Willie Gaines, Tarvaris Dawson, then Dylan Edwards. So, yeah, to help keep up their minimum speed, he could serve that role. I mean, he's going to be a big play guy, kind of just like an X factor. They're going to design plays for him. I wouldn't be surprised if we see like a series here and there where he's, acting as the running back and kind of just toting the rock for 3 or 4 plays. But it's going to be interesting. I'm fascinated to see what they do with him.
I know. It's fast offense. We heard a lot about it.
Yep.
And Dylan Edwards is certainly one of those complementary pieces to being fast. I just remember he had like a 30, like one of the first plays of the spring game. He had like a 35-yard run and he broke. Yes, it was against. It was a second team defense. Still, he broke a lot of tackles and just like. Yep. I think he's such a well-sized back and just like has so much power to break through. Yeah, he's just going to be someone to watch. Yep. And I agree with your analysis of like him playing that kind of speed back.
Yeah, his size, I mean, he's like a little just jackrabbit out there. Yep. He can burst through these holes and he does have kind of deceptive strength to shake off tacklers.
Yeah.
He's a lot of fun. Nicholas asking, do you guys know if any practices will be open yet? I do not know. Have you heard anything? I'm willing to bet you haven't either.
No. I think, we would have heard about something. The summer is really closed off for the most part until August comes around. So they usually don't hold like open practices. I think we'll get some open practices.
I think we will. Well,
like once a week.
Maybe we'll see. With what happened at the end of spring practices, we'll find out. But we'll talk about it later.
Okay.
But, I'm sure we'll have something open at some point. For 06 goalies, the depth chart updated with Wilkerson on it. It is not. And honestly, if I put Wilkerson on this depth chart, I'd have to go like 6 deep because I just went McCaskill, Smoke, Edwards, Hankerson. Sy'veon would probably be after that. But then you throw in Charlie. It's absolutely loaded backfield.
Yeah, it's really such a compelling position group. There's so many weapons. Like they're all so good in like their own ways. Like you can like I said, like Anthony Hankerson, goal line guy, Dylan Edwards, speed back, Vassier Smoke, blocking back, also is a quality carrier. Alton McCaskill, he's ready to rock. And Sy'veon Wilkerson, really productive at Jackson State. So
absolutely,
you can't really go wrong with any of those options.
Sports Geek asking if he's eligible for this season. I don't see why not.
Should be.
He was a sophomore last year, so he's got plenty of eligibility remaining. I don't know if you're inferring a grade thing or something. I don't know on that end. Anything else we got?
How many
in here?
scholarships left?
How many scholarships left? What is your number?
6. There's 79 filled.
Okay,
85.
6 is my number 2. Chase says 5 with Wilkerson. We don't know with him. Again, he could just be walking on, given how he just ended up on the team and didn't really make a big deal of joining the team.
And we've been seeing too, like all those walk-ons have been coming on recently. So I think they're just. And I saw a video too, of like Coach Prime was talking to Coach Salsonzeri, and he's like, all right, we need 2 walk-on defensive ends. Like, what are we looking for? So they're looking for walk-ons right now, and I think they're just testing out some new faces.
Right. You also have, like, the preferred walk-on stuff that you can do for guys potentially like Sy'veon, who, is going to be a factor on the team.
Yeah,
but,
he could maybe earn that scholarship.
Right, later down the road. Another guy that I think I saw Nicholas talking about him in the comments earlier, Owen Westemeyer, I guess, has joined the team. He was a 2023 tackle/tight end at 6'4", 235. That probably leans more to tight end. But the young tight end from Valley High School in West Des Moines, Iowa, has apparently joined the team. Big LT says Wilkerson will start over Hankerson. Sure, wouldn't surprise me, but I don't think any of those guys are going to be competing with carries.
Yeah,
with Alton McCaskill and Kvasir Smoke.
Seriously, it's going to be so competitive.
Yeah. Mac Mills said he was hurt. Interesting. Sean also says he probably gets the coaching change waiver of he sits. It's perfect for him. Yeah, we'll find out. I'm sure we'll get some word eventually. But the CU hasn't updated the roster actually since spring football.
Where'd you put Shiloh in your depth chart?
We had him starting. What do you think? You think he starts? Who's your starting safeties? You have to pick 2.
Okay, let me see.
I might be throwing you to the wolves here a little bit.
I know. God, I want to
Choose your words carefully.
I know. Okay. I think Trevor Woods.
Right?
Am I going to get ripped for this? I think
I got destroyed for it.
he was one of the Buffs' most productive pieces in the defense. And remember that tackle he had in the end zone? Oh, the cow.
Yeah,
I'll never forget
the
that.
game.
He saved the game. I think Trevor Woods. Oh, I also like Cameron too. I haven't seen Travis J. I'm going to say from what I know, I'm just going to say, damn, this is so hard. Hey, Cameron and Trevor, Travis J, honorable mention, Shiloh.
Okay.
Need to see some more. From him.
Travis J. I talked about him yesterday because he was wearing that big brace, didn't know when he was cleared. Well, he set him well off yesterday. He's cleared, so there you go.
Cool beans. Wow, I can't believe I just said that. I need to get out of here.
Vic Sports Talk says Owen Carey's not on the team anymore according to his new video description. That's interesting. That could be another scholarship. Look at everyone saying no.
I know. Okay.
Yep,
okay.
Look at.
Well, for the sake of you guys, I guess that won't happen. But
I mean,
I'd like to see more of Slusher too.
Yeah.
We didn't get to see a lot of him this spring. I don't know. He's so fast. Like, he's so powerful.
Yeah.
Like, he gets the guys quickly. Yes, there were a lot of missed tackles, but not on his front. Like, he was literally the leading tackler last year.
Oh my God, we lit the comments on fire.
Okay. Well,
it's all right. They are all entitled to their opinion. I'll just say, check the tape of Trevor Woods last year.
Yeah,
he could play,
and it's okay. You know, we can agree to disagree. People have disagreed with me many a time.
People brought up not a 111 player is going to play it. We already talked about all this. Don't tell me about Jimmy Horner, Xavier Weaver. Then I don't want to hear it. All right, it was a great week of the show this week, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you for coming on. It's been a while. We'll have to have you back again.
I know. I saw a comment on Brian's video said let Nikki go on DNVR and let her cook. So
Yep.
I cooked today.
You did.
I think a pretty fair meal. Hopefully the analysis was fun.
I think the viewers and listeners are eating well today after this podcast. Let's go. We'll have you back when Ryan's here sometime too.
Cool.
All right, guys. Talk to you next week. Go Buffs.
Yeah. Follow me, Nikki Edwards. Bye.